In the Atlantic Division, you've got the Eastern Conference champions and expected to be the division champs one more time. Hey, how are you folks? Jason Horowitz. Glad to be with you here on CBSSports.com as we get ready for the 2010-2011 NBA season. And to help me break down the Atlantic Division, CBSSports.com's NBA senior writer Ken Berger, CBS Sports' Ian Eagle, also the voice of the New Jersey Nets. And guys, Ian, when you look at the Boston Celtics, the top of this division, no questions there. But are they as good as the Miami Heat the way you see it now?
That's the big question in the Eastern Conference. The reality is they're older. They are very motivated. And I think they're hungry. The fact that the Miami Heat have gotten as much attention as they've gotten during the offseason, heading into the regular season, Boston has a little bit of a chip on its shoulder. They still have the talent in place. They've got two new O'Neals, Shaquille and Jermaine. I think they're better potentially than they were a year ago. That doesn't necessarily mean that they are better than the Miami Heat, though, Ken.
And I think the key is that I'll give you both ends of the spectrum for Boston. First of all, their strength is size and depth on the front line. They have a lot of both. The problem they're going to have is with their age, if they're not healthy, which Doc Rivers doesn't expect them to be. How can you expect them to be with the age on that team? Yeah. They're going to kind of be up and down, and that's kind of the way they were last year. After Christmas, they were a 500 team and kind of snuck up on everybody at the end. I think that's what they're going to have to be looking at this year as well.
How much of this team revolves around, yes, you have the big three and the additions, but the continued development of Rajon Rondo?
Oh, it's huge. On both ends of the floor, he sets the tone offensively and defensively for them. He is what makes them go. You can almost argue that if they're a big three, he's got to be included in it. If they're a big four, he certainly is. And I think he sets the tone. He's the one that created all the havoc against Orlando in the playoffs. He's the one that makes everything go for them.
And Ian, you look at the rest of this division. Nobody else in the division made the playoffs last season. Who do you think makes the biggest steps forward in the Atlantic behind Boston?
Well, of the rest of the teams, it's probably the New York Knicks, a complete roster overhaul for this Knicks team. They'll be better than they were, and this was a team that won 29 games last year, upgraded point guard with Felton. They've got some young players now that they can mesh in. I do think Mike D'Antoni is going to go deeper on this bench, something he was reluctant to do in previous years. They'll probably take the biggest step forward. To me, it may not be enough for that number 8 seed, but I think they'll be fighting with a team or two for that number 8 spot in the East.
See, I see the Knicks as a playoff team this year. I think with Stoudemire, he's going to be the guy who's going to make it go. He'll score a ton for them. He's back in Mike D'Antoni's system. He has a point guard who's not Steve Nash, but Raymond Felton is serviceable, certainly better than what they've had there in the past. I think the Knicks can make some noise. If nothing else, they'll be entertaining to watch.
And to Ian's point of the guys that were on the roster last year, only 4 remain from the beginning of last season to the start of this season. So completely different New York Knicks team, which certainly is a good thing for fans of New York. Ian, your team, the Nets, all right? A lot of offseason talk. They wanted LeBron, didn't get him. Trying to trade for Carmelo. It hasn't happened yet. What happens with the New Jersey Nets?
Well, their credo right now is it's all new. And it's all new. All of it. Avery Johnson obviously takes over as the head coach. I think he brings a philosophy, a culture, an ideal that this team so desperately needed. They've got a lot of second-tier players that are trying to step forward and take on a more prime-time role. You just don't know. You don't know how those players are going to handle expanded minutes, expanded responsibility. They've got the core group in Devin Harris and Brook Lopez. How quickly does Derek Favors develop as a rookie in this league at power forward? A lot of questions. They won 12 games last year. They'll certainly be a lot better than that. They'll be much more competitive. I think more than anything else, Ken, what stands out to me with the Nets, winning 12 games is one thing. Not being competitive in the majority of the rest of the games, that's a more troubling sign to show how far off they were from being a real team.
It is, and Avery really has his work cut out for him there, trying to set a tone, build a program there. What they have to hope is that they can resurrect the Carmelo Anthony talks. Yep. There's still a chance that it happens. You have to watch what happens with Denver early on. If they're slow out of the gate, they have injuries, and if things are kind of falling apart there, the wheels are coming off, there could be a chance that trade will be resurrected. Then the Nets go from this kind of amorphous mess that you're talking about with really no idea what they're going to be to all of a sudden a team that everyone's going to want to watch.
Yeah, and the other 2 teams in this division, the 76ers, they are kind of trying to find that identity as well. The Raptors, no more Chris Bosh, Hedo Turkoglu, that experiment hasn't worked. What happens with either of those teams? Anything better or much worse?
Well, the only thing you can look at with Toronto, they have a huge trade exception they got from this Bosch sign and trade, $14+ million, and they're kind of waiting in the weeds. If they can find an opportunity, especially when teams are going to be looking to dump salary as we head toward the trade deadline, heading into a new collective bargaining agreement, there might be an opportunity there for them to get better. Other than that, you lose players of those caliber, it's going to be hard. I mean, they weren't even a team that was winning playoff series with Bosch. I don't see how they could even make the playoffs without him.
All right, Ian, you take a look at the acquisition with the biggest impact here in this division.
It's Amari Stoudemire. This is what he wanted. He wanted a chance to emerge out of the shadows of Steve Nash in Phoenix. He gets that opportunity with New York. I think it's a very good fit, and he does bring credibility to the franchise.
All right, Ken, how about the rookie with the biggest impact in the division?
For lack of a better pick, Evan Turner. I think it's going to be a while. I think he's definitely a guy who's going to be an electrifying talent in this league at some point. Given what we think of Philly, that they're going to be kind of just the same as they were last year, kind of floating along, I think they're going to give him some minutes and a chance to really grow. So that'd be my pick for rookie.
All right, so the Celtics obviously to make the playoffs and win the division for both of you guys, possibly the Knicks to make the postseason, and everybody else trying to get up into that situation. For more on the Atlantic Division, keep it right here with CBSSports.com. Ian Eagle and Ken Berger. I'm Jason Horowitz. Take care, folks.